Xi Jinping is planning to cement his hold on the South China Sea with floating nuclear power plants. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. China is not known for its great construction. And now they want to build floating nuclear power plants to power its military bases in the South China Sea. What could go wrong? They've been planning this for a long time, since 2010. Here's an artist's rendering. Inspiring. Now, China didn't invent the idea of a floating nuclear power plant. In fact, Russia, China's no-limits partner, already has one. It's basically a super compact version of a normal land-based nuclear power plant stuck on an unpowered barge, which sounds like pretty typical Russian construction. But these floating nuclear power plants are no joke. China's territorial ambitions in the South China Sea are immense. They claim essentially the entire sea, everything within the 9-dash line. Obviously, China's neighbors aren't happy with that. But as one of China's top diplomats, Yang Jiechi, has said, China is a big country and other countries are small countries, and that's just a fact. That's why China has been expanding its military presence here. They built artificial islands throughout the region and has been fully militarizing them. That means arming them with anti-ship and anti-aircraft missile systems, laser and jamming equipment, and fighter jets. The Chinese Coast Guard is attacking Filipino fishermen. Taiwan is being routinely harassed by the Chinese Navy and Air Force. And China is building these floating nuclear power plants for peaceful purposes. Energy exploration, desalination of ocean water, and commercial usage. In 2016, my favorite state-run media, the Global Times, said China plans to deploy 20 of them for peaceful purposes. They also said pairing these artificial islands with a floating nuclear power plant is essentially a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. Nuclear-powered aircraft carrier for peaceful purposes, right? Well, with all the military aircraft and missile systems now installed on them, the Global Times says their military advantage far outweighs that of a U.S. carrier fleet coming from afar. I'm beginning to think China's military takeover of the South China Sea isn't all that peaceful. In fact, this report for China's State Council says these nuclear power plants can ensure the smooth conduct of military exercises. Now, to be clear, despite all of China's talks, so far they don't have any floating nuclear power plants. But since May of 2023, the CCP is moving full speed ahead with the project. This was right after saying they were suspending plans because of safety and feasibility concerns. Yeah, considering China's using cyanide to fish with in waters near the Philippines, I don't think safety is their main concern. Speaking of, as a side note, there's no telling what floating nuclear power plants could do to the environment. There's no international framework for laws or safety regulations on these kind of reactors, probably because who in their right minds 20 years ago would have thought, hey, don't build floating nuclear plants on reefs. I know that's super specific, but if you're thinking about it, don't. China's artificial islands have already done enormous damage to the tropical ecosystem in the South China Sea. And again, dumping cyanide isn't helping either. On the bright side, this will still probably take years to develop. But, as it is, the US and its allies are distracted with wars in Europe and the Middle East, so Xi Jinping might feel he has the time. And now it's time for me to answer a question from a fan who supports China Uncensored on the crowdfunding website patreon.com/China Uncensored. And today's question comes from 0x Alatus. Hey Chris, I've watched your videos for a long time, and now I've finally graduated, pay my own bills, and get into debt. I'm finally able to support your shows. Just $1 a month, I hope that helps. Well, thank you, 0x. Even $1 a month is a huge help. Way more than I'd be getting on YouTube for your view. And congrats on graduating, and I really appreciate you using some of your hard-earned money to support the show. All right, let me finish your question. China always seems to quote history when it comes to territorial claims. Why doesn't someone point out that the real China was the area within the Great Wall, since Chinese people probably made the wall to protect China's borders from invaders? It's kind of easy to claim only the best part of history. Well, yeah, 0x, that's a great point. A lot of the claims China has made in the South China Sea are based on some pretty bogus historical claims. Of course, just pointing out that that is stupid doesn't do much because, well, fully militarized artificial islands with missile launchers, jets, and someday floating nuclear power plants. Unfortunately, there is some truth to what the Chinese diplomats said about there being big countries and small countries. And the CCP is hoping it can use its military might to bully its neighbors. When an international tribunal at The Hague said China's claims in the South China Sea were bogus, China just ignored the ruling. And no one really challenged them, not really. The US conducts freedom of navigation operations, but that at best just slows the CCP down. That doesn't mean the situation is hopeless, though. The Philippines is doing a great job fighting back without using force. They've been inviting international journalists on board fishing vessels to witness firsthand the CCP's aggression and showing that footage to the world. The CCP can't cover it up. And this is how other countries can stand up to China. China is a big country, but if a lot of China's smaller neighbors team up, maybe with a little help from the US, they can do a lot to push back against the CCP's aggression. That's one of the reasons I do China Uncensored, to expose what the CCP is doing. So thank you for your question and your support of China Uncensored 0x. The CCP is very upset at you and everyone who supports the show on Patreon. And you can get on the CCP's bad list just by clicking on that orange button. And click on this video from my latest episode of the new show Deep Thoughts While Gaming, where I talk about news and politics through the lens of gaming. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.